Since 2006, Magic the Gathering have been giving these weird Christmas cards out that are not legal at all. No one gets to play them, but it is a cool idea and very fun. I don't know who these are really sent to, but a load of big creators I've seen. And in this video, I will be going over each individual one, giving my thoughts and opinions on them, and seeing if this is a good thing that they should continue doing. But before I go any further, a word from our sponsor, which is me and my small Etsy shop. It'll be linked down below. You can get really nice t-shirts and hoodies with designs that I made that I thought would be cool. It comes in multiple colours and sizes. And if you like me and what I do and want to help out the channel, please go and get yourself something nice. I'll be starting in 2006, pretty much showing off the card, giving my thoughts and opinions on it, and thinking if it should be legal or not. And then each year going down until the new year. I'd like to start this festive episode with
2006 Fruitcake Elemental.
Starting off, this card is ugly, but in a good way. I do like this big massive monster fruitcake, but 3 mana for a 7/7, it must have a lot of downsides. Well, no, not really. It's indestructible, which is quite good, but it does 7 damage to you. But in a life gain deck, that doesn't really matter, and it's green, so you can power it up even more, giving it 1/1 counters and then doubling them 1/1 counters, or making multiple copies of this card. And then for 3 mana you get to give it to someone, so yes, you could have it that it stays on the field and just not be able to attack each turn, and they take 7 damage, and that is a lot to do, and there's a lot of cards that thing. But I do think overall this card should be legal. It is a weird and cool card, and you get to do really cool stuff with it. There's a card in Magic the Gathering that if you give to an opponent, like you win the game or they lose the game, I can't remember what it is. It's like a big massive metal train snake. So this card is kind of like on that level. It's a really cool 7/7 if you have a life gain deck. I do think the 7 damage is worth taking if you are the one dealing like 14, 18, 32 damage with this big massive Colossus Beast. Plus, if it's doing 7 damage to you, you might be able to negate it in some form or way. So I do think that this is actually quite a good normal the Magic the Gathering card. But next it is
2007 Gifts Given.
This to me is very weird. A card that is already a card that's just getting a Christmas theme is kind of meh, especially because in 2006 you got a brand new card that has never been seen. Plus later on over the years this card got banned but still got artwork made. I do like this. It does seem somewhat Christmassy, but if you just show me the artwork, I would only guess it was Christmas themed. If someone's like us, what season would this card be released in? But Gifts Ungiven is a very powerful card. I do think it should be banned still, mainly because I did have this in an extra turn deck and I pretty much just went, you get a choice of this extra turn card or this extra turn card, and it did annoy people. So the fact that this is a banned card, even though this version would not be playable anyway, with an okay Christmas art, I'm completely fine. I did think 2007 was not a good year for this card. So next we're going on to
2008 Evil Presence.
4 mana for a very, very weird card. This is really difficult to get to, and it is a sorcery. Pretty much you play it, be able to pick a creature from your hand and go, here you go, this is yours. And then it's goaded, but only for that person. And the main reason I say this is like this is because you can't block. It's on your side. So if it's attacking you and it's on your side of the field, you cannot block it. So the only way to really get rid of it is murder or something like that. And it's a really weird concept. I would have liked it if you got to play a present for free and then got to target an opponent. But then that opponent would be able to block. I think if they were going to remake this, it would have a slight change. Target creature gains like vigilance, trample, and goated to a target opponent that has the present gift or something like that. I think that would have been a good card. So if you had, like, for example, a Golter on your side of the field, you give Golter the gift or the present to an opponent. Golter can only really attack that opponent, but Golter also gains trample, vigilance, and indestructible, which I think would have been a better kind of gift premise of a card. To be honest, I don't say this will be... I say I'm happy that this is banned, mainly due to the complications of the card. It's one of those things that if you played this and it was like illegal, people would be like, no, that's weird. How does that work? And then that's more of a discussion in the game of how does the card actually work, and people getting confused of the rulings and stuff like that. So I do think if they were to remake this, and I do think they should remake a card like this, it should be something along the lines of target opponent gets a present token, then target creature you control gains, and then throw like 2 or 3 keywords on it, and then gold only opponent with present counter on it, if that makes sense. But with that, we're going on to the next year, which is
2009 Seasons Beatings.
Again, 4 mana for a sorcery that does weird things. I actually do like this card. My only problem with this is it is kind of too complicated. Pretty much what happens is it's a one player kind of board wipe. One will survive, I say, most of the time. But it's kind of figuring out which creatures attack which and which ones they're trying to get rid of, which would be a big time waste. I'm kind of sick of Blasphemous Act, but I think Blasphemous Act would have been a better thing. But it's kind of like a weird card. I do like it. I like the premise. It is a good Christmas card, but I think as a playable, I know these are not playable cards, but if this was a playable card, I think it would have a rule change of target opponent's creatures rather attack themselves, or target opponent, whatever their strongest creature is, deals damage to all creatures on their side of the field. So it's kind of like if you have, we'll say, a 6/8, everything but that will be destroyed. But if you have a 8/6, everything goes. But I don't think that will be a card that will ever exist. But now let's go on to the 10s, starting off with
2010 Snow Mercy.
This card is just straight out confusing, and I think, in my opinion, a bit overpowered. It's the first enchantment that they did, and to be honest, I see a lot of people just, if they are playing, going, I don't want to tap, untap, tap, untap, and tap it again. Just let me tap it and just say I did it. The thing is, when people attack you, they get a globe counter, and then you're able to tap down all of them. I do think is quite a good card overall, but the ability of, we'll say, a bunch of creatures attacking you, especially in a 4-player commander game, and you just go, everything's tapped, is a bit powerful, especially for the amount of mana you're able to do it each turn. I don't think this will be a legal card, even if it was. I think it's kind of really quite overpowered in my personal opinion. And now let's go on to our first dual card, which is
2011 You Lose.
When it comes to this card, in my opinion, I think 6 mana would have been actually great, and this card is now playable because they have added food. It should say at the bottom though, like tap 2, sack a food token, and then be able to do the thing. The randomized stuff is more of a Rakdos thing, but since there is a Rakdos card that does do a lot of random stuff, I do think this actually, right now, the way Magic is a really good and playable card, especially if it also counts you. I think at the beginning, this card should be a card that says, at the beginning of your upkeep, choose a permanent at random, and then that permanent gets destroyed, put 1/1 counters onto it, and then you have to sacrifice a food token to regenerate it. So that means it could be very, very powerful. The only downside is the mana and the food tokens. Food tokens are very easy to get, so it's very, very difficult to destroy. I do think the cost should be maybe an extra mana or 2, so the person has to keep up 4 mana and a food token each turn if they want that thing to live. But now the card that is possibly a question, are you
2012 Naughty/Nice.
When it comes to this card, I'm not going to lie, I think it should be unbanned. I think the slight change should be, it should be 5 mana and 3 mana. One being able to go, I want a card from your library is very, very powerful. So 5 mana and possibly sacking something to get someone's best card from someone's deck is that type of power thing. But then having the white side, there is a lot of annoying cards. I'm not sure if there's any cards that activate from your hand, but if there's cards like someone loses life, the amount of cards in their hand or something like that, I do think that other side is playable. They could also be cards that like you could try and force people to play. I think the white side is more of where it gets to this is going to be banned, and I say the black side is going to be too powerful for Magic now, but possibly in the future, the way power creep's going, I do see it a card possibly in the future. So now let's go on to
2013 Stalking Tiger.
5 mana for a 3/3. I do like the art of this card, but it depends what the card does that makes and breaks this card. This card I've seen would have actually been good in the unsets, or I think it was called Conscription, where actually sealed packs and stuff like that was actually worth it. I must have said this possibly, I don't know what year it came out in, came out roughly around that time. I don't think this card would ever see play. I do kind of like the ability of it in my opinion, but I think it should be kind of like, do you know that white, I think he's a vampire, the white vampire guy that has a bunch of keywords for each keyword. I think they should have a list of keywords, and then whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you're able to pick one of them, possibly at random, and then add it on as a kind of counter. So do you know when they added all the like indestructible counter, vigilance counter? It is, here is a list of counter tokens it can get, and whenever it deals combat damage, you can put it onto the creature. I do see it being playable then, but with the whole magic booster pack thing, no, not at all, and I'm happy it's banned. And now we're going on to the first land, which is
2014 Mishra's Toy Workshop.
This, in my opinion, is a weird card, but straight off the bat, absolutely hilarious. This is more of a story-based kind of hilarious to me than anything else. And then also, not gonna lie, I think there is a playable chance, not with this card, but there could be potentially a magic version of it in the future, where you're able to activate spells or abilities of like any token that came on the field that turn, or anything that makes tokens. I do think it is going to be a very meh card, but I do see this as a hilarious card, and to be honest, a card I would like to get my hands on. But next is
2015 Goblin Sleigh Ride.
So starting off, this is a ugly card. Secondly, the ability is absolutely terrible. You pretty much put a card, I think, on it, and you slide the card on whatever it touches. If the card stays on, then you destroy everything it touches. It's kind of like bowling, but with 2 bowling balls on top of each other. I don't think there's any way to fix or make this better. I don't like this card at all. I think the card is ugly. I do think that it's too much of a mess. I know there was cards in unsets that, like, if you hold it up in the air, it gets flying, or if you say certain words, or if it's nighttime, it gets more powerful. But I find it difficult, and I can't really think from the top of my head, if they made an unversion of it, what they could have possibly done that wasn't a big mess like this. So now we're going on to
2016 Thopter Pie Network.
This card is funny to me. It's kind of like a piss take version of a previous card that has been made before. Again, not the biggest fan of it. However, I do think that if they'd done a unset, could do something similar like this. But it would also be good if they done maybe in the kind of the racing car set that's coming out. They've shown off like fans and helium balloons and stuff like that. That they have a version of this card, which instead of food and you actually physically eating the card, it is something like you are able to like sack food to make Thopters, and if a Thopter would die, put a counter on it. When you get that many counters, you get a food token back or something like that to kind of get it back. I do think this is a weird card overall. I do like the theme of it. I do like that it's based on another card. I do like this as a concept, and I do like that it's one of this because it's a card that will never actually be used. It's on the Christmas thing. But I do think this is also a good card for a possibility of an unversion or a very weak normal Magic the Gathering card. But next we are on to
2017 Some Disassembly Required.
To be honest, not gonna lie, I actually do like this card. I actually think this should be a real card. Again, obviously with some changes. One, getting rid of the kind of gaining 1 life if it's December for each card that does it. But I do think this should be a card that literally, I think should be 3 mana and then 1 black mana to activate it. Where you when you activate it, you sacrifice a creature card, so you can't do it to tokens. Whatever keywords is on that, you can move them onto another creature. This will be really good if you had a commander, and then if you had another creature with Death Touch or Indestructible and something like that, you're able to sacrifice that creature and then put the keywords onto your commander. I'm more thinking this will be good for if you have something with like, we'll say 10 or 20 keywords, and then you have a very powerful Voltron commander, and then you just go, I want you to have all of them. Kind of like a black and longer version of, again, I've mentioned it before, the white vampire dude, or he becomes a vampire, that has a bunch of keywords on him. The fact that you permanently sack this card or exile it, I would be happy with too. To give this other thing keywords would be hilarious. Personally, I would put this in a Toxrill deck to be able to just go, yeah, I'm going to play this creature with indestructible or this creature with double strike and first strike and all of this and get rid of them all and reanimate them and then put all the keywords onto Toxrill. So even though Toxrill's really annoying with all the abilities and getting a bunch of snails, Toxrill also has a bunch of keywords, which would be probably more annoying than more people expect. But now let's go on to
2018 Bog Humbugs.
2 mana for a 1/1 with flying is, in my opinion, not good, but I can see a thread when it comes to their ability, and I think it would be like this card. No, this card is an uncard, possibly, but I think it's just because food's in my head now with all the cards that say food. I think this would be a good card that if it deals combat damage to an opponent, you're able to sacrifice a food token and give this a 1/1 counter instead of getting like the 3 life for normally sacking it. That could potentially make it stronger, especially with proliferate and stuff like that. But again, I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, is there cards that you're able to sacrifice food tokens to power it up by 1+1+1? Let me know in the comments down below. And now we're going on to
2019 Decorated Knight.
this card. I despise. I really don't like this card. I do like the art and I do find it funny. The fact that it's one of those Eldraine cards that's a sorcery and a creature at the same time. I'm not the biggest fan at all of just switching your deck and then being able to draw, because it's kind of like you're drawing from 2 decks. So pretty much you build 2 decks to play this card. But I'm not a big fan of this or this ability. This is a card that I don't think there's any way possible to make it good and fun in Magic the Gathering. And I also find it weird, or I'm actually happy that this is a card that's not playable in anything. If you can think of actually anything of way to play this card, like if there's a way to have the same ability just changed, like I've been doing with the other cards, to make this playable in Commander or any actual format, please let me know in the comments down below. Now we're coming to the end of this. When it comes to this, there's only like 4 more years left. Going on to
2020 Top Deck the Halls.
To be honest, I think this will be quite a good uncard. I think there is also a way to be able to actually turn this into a normal card, but I don't know what the kind of decoration part would be. Maybe it could be, again, snow permanents, but again, people just put snow permanents of their cards in it. I don't think from the top of my head there's a kind of, you could do it with the gates again, but gates have already been done with Mace's End. But an enchantment that gives you, if you have a certain card type multiple times, you're possibly be able to win the game, is a good version. So if you can think of anything, please let me know. And then next is
2021 Last Minute Chopping.
When it comes to this, the art is absolutely beautiful, but the ability I don't see good at all in any form of way. I do think there's cards that give you a choice of one or the other of possibly, I know there's one that everyone hates, the voting one, that if you get an extra turn or you get someone's permanent, but I think that's 4 to 6 mana, I could be wrong there. But this card is one of those things that you ask someone a question. I've never been a big fan of that. I've actually put cards not in them. I don't even put voting cards in. So this is one of those weird cards, but I do appreciate at least the characters in it and the artwork, and I do respect kind of the storytelling aspect of it. But now we're on to
2022 Chaos Wrap.
This I actually weirdly like. This is one of those cards that I would actually really appreciate if they unbanned it. This is one of those weird cards that, again, it's just Chaos Swap with a Christmas theme. And I do think that they should be playable, in my personal opinion. So if you disagree with me, again, let me know in the comments down below. There's not really much I can say about this. It is literally just a Christmas-themed Chaos Swap. It's a good card in my opinion. Now we've got 2 more to go with
2023 Seasonal Sequels.
This, in my opinion, is one of those cards that is good to look at, but the ability is terrible. This is one of those Christmas cards that I'm like, they could have done something amazing. They really didn't do well this. But in fairness, I do think that year was very hectic for them, and they probably, in my opinion, just rushed this card. It didn't seem really like fall through or very thought about when it comes to this. So again, there's not much to talk about. This is, in my opinion, the worst one out of them all. But again, let me know what you think. And then finally, we're on to
2024 Eggnogger Statch.
Is this that creature from the vault? If it is, let me know. Because Loot, I think his name is. This card, again, is a good Christmas themed card, possibly a good uncard or a variation of it. I actually do think there could be a card like this that has lands have this ability, so you don't have to tap the land, but I think it should be this creature gets +1/+1, not all creatures. Because realistically, you can just, even if it's 2 tap land, just tap all your lands late game to give it like 3 or 5 +1/+1 counters to all your creatures. I think this is a very powerful card, but I do like the concept of creatures that give lands extra abilities that are not mana abilities to then power up creature or creatures. But that's everything when it comes to this. There's not really much to talk about. This is my first ever Christmas themed episode. So if you want to see more, or if you have any suggestions when it comes to holiday cards or videos when it comes to this, let me know in the comments down below. When it comes to these, I do like the idea of them. Some years are very weak. Some years are very strong. The cards overall are somewhat okay to good, with a handful being amazing or terrible. I do like this as a concept, but I think it should be more of a focused thing with bigger stuff. Some cards also should be unbanned or stay unbanned, but I also think they should have versions of them majority, or maybe 1 or 2 getting actual versions of cards. But I also think mainly people that enjoy this should be able to get it. I think personally, in my opinion, and again, if anyone from Wizards or anyone from Secret Lair, I do think they should do next year, possibly, or maybe for the 35 or 40 year anniversary, a Christmas Secret Lair where you get all of these in a kind of updated version. Not as in kind of a updated version when it comes to the card itself. So for example, the 2006 card should look like a, we'll say, 2025 Magic the Gathering card, but it'll have the same abilities. I think that would be a great Secret Lair that people would buy. If that was, let me know in the comments down below. If you think that would be a really good Secret Lair in 2025, let me know in the comments down below if you would buy it or not. I know it depends on price, but again, we'll see if it was a thing you would be interested in. When it comes to this, again, I love making these videos, so please go like and subscribe and write in the comments everything I've asked you to do when it comes to this video. Share it to a friend and all of this, because it really does help. When it comes to this my Christmas theme episode, I hope you enjoyed yourself and have a very Merry Christmas, and I hope Santa is very good to you. But as always, if you enjoyed this Christmas theme episode, I have other episodes, just like this one here. I have a playlist of Magic the Gathering videos I make here, and a subscribe button here, and I will see you all next year.